So now we know that cold and heat both are beneficial. But you talk about something very interesting, which is a contrasting therapy. And you call it the thermalist method. Please tell me about it.
Yes. So the thermalist method is what we call the contrast therapy. I call it that because it's not just using a cold tub and using a sauna. It's a specific program because you can do this, I found out during the last couple of years, you can do it in a non-beneficial way. So following a specific structure for this will make sure that you get the benefits as well. I studied this for 10 years now, and contrasting between the cold and the heat is going to push your cardiovascular system, your metabolism from one extreme to the other, and that takes fuel, it takes energy, and that is where we see that you get the most benefits. Where we see that in my research is that our participants in my studies had actually a faster glucose clearance from the blood. And just to explain what that means, it means that when people use on a regular basis the cold and then going to the heat and going back to the cold and back and forth, that means that they will push their metabolism to either increase the heat in the body or decrease the heat in the body. And that takes energy, takes fuel from the body, and that is the white fat. So now you're burning the fat and the sugar from your bloodstream, right? And you need to train your body to be faster and faster and better at that. And the body just wants to survive whatever you're doing. Yeah. So the body actually tries to tell the cells, oh, work faster. And how does it work faster? By increasing mitochondria in the cells. And we need those mitochondria because those are the small fabrics in the cell, in our cells, that will make sure that you easily and fast adapt to every situation. So when you push your body in either way direction of the temperature scale, you will push your cells to adapt to that situation. And that takes fuel, that takes mitochondria. And we need better mitochondria health in our world because then we will live longer, simply. And when you do that, you will see a faster glucose clearance. So it clears the glucose from the bloodstream and it also burns the fat. And we see that in our participants in my study. They had a faster insulin, you can say, sensitivity, meaning they didn't have to...
Can you explain that?
Yeah, insulin sensitivity is something you really want to improve on. Because when you can improve your insulin sensitivity, you are further away from getting type 2 diabetes. And I know that's a huge problem also in India, but around the world in general, actually. So we know that type 2 diabetes is a disease that is also correlates with a shorter lifespan, right? So we want to work on that insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity means that your cells in your body are not very good at sensing that there is sugar around. So the insulin helps the sugar in the blood to get out of the bloodstream.
Correct.
Yeah. So we want the cells to be very sensitive to the insulin. But if we are not...
Just a little bit of insulin and the blood should go out. That's how it should ideally happen,
right? Ideally it should not be like that, but it's kind of not.
Okay.
But if you can train that, you will have a better insulin sensitivity using contrast therapy. And this specific method that I have developed based on my research is science-backed. Because there's so much going on out there where people are doing it either too long or people are guiding people in different ways. I know it's innocent, I would say. Yeah. Many people just don't know that there is just because you have found in research that cold and heat is beneficial for you, it doesn't mean that there's not really a way to do it. Yeah. It's not just go out and do whatever. Yeah. There's actually a better way to do it where you actually also get the benefits and don't over-exhaust the body. Because when you overdo it, you overstress your organs. And when you overstress your organs, you're not getting the benefits. It might even take years off in the long run.
Okay, great. So I understood two things from this contrast therapy, the thermalist method. Guys, you got to check this out. Number one, it helps you lose fat, right? Because you're increasing your metabolism and then that helps you lose fat in turn. And number two, it increases or improves your insulin sensitivity. So people with type 2 who already have type 2 diabetes, will they also benefit from this?
I mean, I would suppose so, but we need research studies specifically with type 2 diabetes patients
Yeah.
where they do this contrast therapy. But there is research specifically on heat, so on the sauna, where they have looked in randomized clinical trials on type 2 diabetes to see if they could lower the glucose levels and increase the insulin sensitivity. And here we actually do see that they decrease the glucose levels and improve the insulin sensitivity by using a sauna for 8 weeks. So there is definitely studies on specific one modality or the other, but using it in contrast for specifically type 2 diabetes, that study we are still waiting on, I would say.
Okay, I hope it's out real soon and somebody does it. But so now I want to ask you another question related to this, and that is, now we know that the contrast is good for us. So how do we do it? If you can go a little bit into the details of the way of doing it, if not entirely, how long cold and sauna or heat for how long, and then it'll be great for the audience to know that.
Yeah. So specifically, this is the Thermalist method.
Yeah.
And I think that people should definitely check out. If you are a professional, you should go and train yourself. I have a certification program if you're interested in that. But other than that, I would say 2 minutes in the cold is definitely enough. Contrast that with the sauna. And here we see in my studies that even 10 to 15 minutes each time is actually enough. You don't have to go multiple rounds or anything. If you can just start out with one cold and one heat session, that is also good enough. But you can also go back and forth a couple of times. And my research shows that if you do this 2 to 3 times a week, then you will have the benefits of faster glucose tolerance and also Then you will have the benefits of faster glucose clearance and insulin sensitivity. So a few times a week is actually enough. What we could see is that, and I will put some numbers on this now because I think that it gives people a way of working something up,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So what my studies found is that in total, and I say really with like capital letters, in total, 11 minutes per week is enough. And you divide that on 2 to 3 times per week. So you only have to dip a few minutes each dip. You can work yourself up to doing in total 11 minutes per week in the cold water and 57 minutes of sauna in a week. And you also divide that in multiple days per week. So that is actually enough.
Okay, great. So now we know that cold and heat and the benefit of it, and we know how long to do it for. Then there is this principle of yours that's also popularized by Dr. Huberman's podcast with you.
He named it.
Yeah, so that was really cool. The Soberg principle, as he calls it. What is the Soberg principle?
So the Soberg principle is actually the question about how do you get the most out of what you're doing. Yeah. So what I figured in my research, and actually I figured it out by doing it myself. I am definitely a cold sissy myself. So starting out experiencing the cold and the heat here in Denmark, and we are a cold country, so you can actually take a dip out in the sea. And what I found out, because I didn't have access to a sauna, is that when I got home, I would start shivering on the couch.
Okay.
And I wanted to figure out what was actually going on. And that's where I found out that the shorter is better. And I found out that when you're doing that, you are forcing your body to reheat on its own, by itself. And that takes energy. And the more I do that, and you can say every time I've been in the cold water, I deliberately don't go home and take a hot shower because I want my body to create the heat by itself. And that is a cardiovascular and metabolic workout on its own, which you don't want to miss. That would be like going out and to the training center and stop midway For me, it is.
Yeah.
So it might be for some a little bit difficult in the beginning, but you can work yourself up to that ending on the cold and not in the sauna. That is what it means. Then you would increase your metabolism and push your body to reheat naturally.